At my brother's wedding, I was handed a folding chair by the kitchen. His fiancée smiled and said, "It's just for plus ones." I looked around and everyone else had a seat, even my ex. So I picked up my gift, turned around and said, "Plus one this." He ran after me in front of everyone. "My name is Adrian. I'm 34 years old and I wasn't planning to write this. But after what happened at my brother's wedding, I honestly need to get this off my chest because what they did to me that day was just the final nail in a coffin that's been building my whole life for context. I've always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Tyler. He's 31, charming, successful, and very good at playing the golden child. I've always been the quiet one, the planner, the fixer, the one who helped cover bills when mum and dad couldn't, and somehow I've always been just background noise in everyone else's highlight reel. Growing up, Tyler and I weren't close. He'd break something, blame it on me, and I'd take the fall just to keep the peace. My parents would sigh and tell me he's still learning. "Adrian, you're older. Be the example." And I was even when he stole my car at 17 and dented it at a party I paid the insurance and said nothing. Even when he got arrested at 21 for shoplifting cologne for a girlfriend, I bailed him out and told no one. Silence peacekeeper. Fast forward to now. Tyler's getting married to Marissa. We've met a few times. She's cold, the kind of person who talks like she's already bored, always dressed up, always scanning for someone better. She once called my job in logistics cute. I kept my distance, but I still said yes. When I got the invite, I even helped him plan. I gave him the contact for a catering team I've worked with, and he used them. I didn't expect to be best. Man, I'm not that naive, but I thought I'd at least get a proper seat and a moment to feel like family. The venue was a dream countryside, a state fairy lights lake in the back, perfect for Instagram. I showed up early with a gift, a classy engraved decanter set with their initials and date. Nothing flashy, just timeless. I checked in and the girl at the welcome desk frowned a little. "You're listed as a plus one," she said. "We've got a seat by the kitchen since you came alone." I blinked. I'm his brother before she could fix it. Marissa floated over, perfect dress, perfect smile. "Hey, Adrian, glad you made it. We had to make tough calls with the seating. Hope you don't mind. We just needed space for close friends and extended family." She laughed like it was no big deal. I looked past her. My uncle, who hadn't spoken to Tyler in 6 years, had a seat front and center. My cousin Ryan, who once stole from Grandma, had a great spot, and then I saw her. My ex Tessa, sitting 2 tables from the sweetheart table, laughing with a glass of Prosecco. She and I dated 5 years ago. Tyler introduced us when we broke up. He kept in touch with her. Of course she had a seat. Marissa noticed me staring and added, "Oh yeah, Tessa's always been so supportive. You don't mind, right?" I didn't answer. I walked to my assigned seat fold-out chair by the kitchen next to a swinging door. It was hot, loud, smelled like fish and burnt rosemary. I watched the couple enter to applause. I saw Tyler whisper something to Tessa as he passed, and she smiled back too warmly. I watched my gift get shoved to the side, ignored. Then I stood, walked back to grab it, and headed to the exit. As I passed Marissa near the dance floor, she asked, "Where are you going?" I turned slowly. The room quieted just enough for people to hear. "Plus one," this some gasp. Someone laughed. I didn't care. I walked out, slow, calm, deliberate, like I was finally done pretending. And that moment right there wasn't even the worst part, not even close. And then the holidays came around again. Thanksgiving was at my parents' house, like it always had been. They went all out, the kind of meal that made the house smell like warmth and memories. Turkey stuffing sides, too many pies, and to my surprise, Tyler and Marissa were invited. Or maybe it wasn't a surprise. Maybe I was finally seeing that I'd never truly been the one invited in the first place. I'd always just shown up because it was expected. This time I hadn't committed to going right away, but a week before my mum called me and said, "Please, Adrian." It would mean a lot. No drama, I promise. And this time I said yes, not because I wanted to keep the peace, but because I was done avoiding the places and people who once made me feel small. When I walked in that afternoon, the air felt different, not tense exactly, but muted. Cousins gave polite nods, an aunt offered me a sideways smile. and Tyler was already there, moving chairs around like nothing had happened when he saw me. He froze for a second, then gave a short, stiff wave. Marissa wasn't there. My mom whispered later that she had other plans, which we both knew meant she couldn't face the people who now saw through her polished mask. We sat down to eat. Tyler was quiet, barely touching his food, fake laughing too loud at random moments and glancing at me, like he wanted a sign that we were okay again. I didn't give him one after dessert. When the room thinned out and football hummed on the TV, he found me in the kitchen alone. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice low. I nodded. "Thanks for the letter." He looked almost surprised, then relieved, like that was the permission he'd been waiting for. I meant what I said. He told me I was a fool. I let everything get away from me. "You did," I said flatly. I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. He didn't argue, just nodded. "Maybe we can get back to normal," he said. I stared at him. What does that even mean? Because to me, normal meant being your backup, your afterthought, your fixer. I was the guy you called in crisis, not the one you invited to celebrate your wins. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I know I get that now, and I don't want it to be like that anymore." "You can want it," I said. "But that doesn't make it real. You don't just get a second chance because you finally feel bad about it. You have to earn it." He looked down again. "I know." "So what do I do?" he asked. I crossed my arms. "You show up consistently. You stop centering yourself in every story, you own your messes, and you stop expecting me to clean up after you again and again." He nodded slower this time. "Okay, I can do that." "We'll see," I said, and he didn't argue or try to hug it out. He just let the silence stay heavy and honest, progress, and then something strange happened over the next few months. He actually tried short texts, no expectations. "Hey, just thinking about you," or "How's work?" Nothing big, but they showed up when I needed to feel like I mattered one Saturday. He brought over coffee and croissants. For no reason, we sat on the couch, watched the game, and just existed like brothers. No talk of the wedding, no old wounds, just quiet healing. I didn't trust it immediately, but something had shifted, and piece by piece, I let him meet me halfway. Marissa never reached out, not once, but I heard she wasn't happy with how things had unfolded. She lost some social capital after the wedding, especially with people who'd seen the truth of her. She had a reputation. Now, not one I gave her, but one she'd built herself by spring. Tyler and Marissa were taking space, not quite separating, but clearly unraveling from what I heard. They'd been off since Bali. Apparently not having me to use as their emotional broom had exposed a lot of cracks. Tyler didn't go into detail, but over lunch one day he said, "I think she loved the version of me that fit her Instagram feed, not the guy eating cold pizza at midnight," and I just nodded, glad he was finally seeing it. For what it was, that summer he invited me to a cookout for his birthday. Nothing fancy, just burgers, cheap beer, a backyard, and friends. When I showed up, he handed me the tongs. "You're on grill duty tradition, right?" And it wasn't a big gesture, but it felt real. And when the night wound down, he raised a bottle to Adrian. He said, "For showing me what a brother should be, even when I didn't deserve it." I didn't make a speech. I just raised my drink and said, "Took you long enough." Everyone laughed, and in that laugh, something shifted, something settled. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing who's worth the effort of building something better. With the decanter from the wedding still sits in my kitchen now, not hidden away, not full of old pain, just glass used finally, and often, like it always should have been. 6 months later, they filed for divorce. Tyler called me himself, which said a lot. He sounded calm, steady, like someone finally breathing after years of holding their breath. "It's been coming for a while," he said. "We just couldn't find our way back. Or maybe we never had a map to begin with." "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, and I believed him. We met for dinner, not to celebrate, but to mark the start of something different. We went to this small place we used to visit with our dad, pasta, over paper napkins, comfort food, and he looked more like himself than he had in years. "I've been thinking of going back to school," he said. "Maybe finally get that engineering degree. What happened to the real estate empire?" I teased and he grinned. That was her dream, I just played along, it sounded impressive. I raised my glass to finding yourself, and he clinked his to second chances after dinner. As we walked to our cars, he turned to me and said, I never thanked you properly for what? For walking out that day at the wedding. If you hadn't done that, if you'd just kept swallowing it, I'd probably still be pretending everything was fine. And you know what? He was. Right? Sometimes love means leaving. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to let yourself keep bleeding for people who won't even notice. And then spring came, and I started dating someone new. Her name was Claire, and she saw me, like really saw me. And when I told her the wedding story on our third date, I braced for judgment, but she just smiled and said, good for you. Some people need to learn that your absence is the price they pay for taking your presence for granted. And when she met Tyler at a family barbecue, he was kind, curious, even helpful. No jabs, no awkwardness. Just support. My mum pulled me aside later and said, I'm sorry, we didn't see it sooner. How much you were carrying. I didn't know what to say to that for so long. I'd felt invisible, and now being seen was strange and beautiful. Later that night, Claire asked if I regretted anything. I told her, I regret how long it took. I regret how many years I spent being small, but I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret demanding more. And she squeezed my hand and said, that's why I like you. And I smiled because now I knew my worth, really knew it, and that made all the difference. Tyler and I aren't perfect. Sometimes we still fall into old rhythms, but now we speak a different language, one rooted in respect and effort, not obligation. Last week he helped me move into a new place, hauled boxes, climbed stairs, brought me a fire extinguisher, said, it's because I'm always putting out fires, and we laughed, and I realized something beautiful. The breaking had been necessary for the rebuilding. Without the fracture, there would have never been space for something stronger. And now, when I see that decanter, I don't see a broken promise. I see resilience. I see growth. And I see me finally being used the way I was meant to be. So here's my last thought for you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, if you're sitting at the edge of your own metaphorical wedding wondering if walking out means giving up, let me tell you this. Maybe walking out is the bravest kind of love you'll ever show. Not for them, but for you. Because knowing your worth, standing in it, and refusing to shrink for someone else's comfort, that's not the end of your story. That's the start of a better one. So if this hit home, if you've ever been the one left behind, overlooked or underestimated, stick around, because this channel is for you. Share your story in the comments, or just drop a heart if you've found your peace, because someone out there needs to know they're not alone. And if you're ready to rewrite your story, one honest page at a time, subscribe. I've got more to say, and so do you.